very semi-cold day. It's 10:04, and we're going to start the meeting. Move on to item 2, which is regular business, the approval of the January 24th agenda. Did anyone have any changes or thoughts? Okay, then can I have a motion to approve the January agenda?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Dan.
Second.
And we have a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries easily. All right, let's move on to B, approval of the November 22nd minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review those? All right, did anybody have any changes or updates to the minutes? Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
All right, and a second? Somebody better second that. All right, thank you, Raven. All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say or type aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, on to the director's report. Chad?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Good morning, members of the Technical Advisory Committee. Today, an overview for you. Today's agenda has no action items. It was a couple of updates and then one discussion item. Before we go to the main agenda items, we have a couple of items for you. One is introductions to new staff at WAMPO, and then tip amendments and tip update schedule after that. So let me request our new staff, Ashley Breyers and Mark and Terry. So one after each of them introduce themselves to the Technical Advisory Committee members. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Ashley Breyers. I am the new Transportation Planning Manager. I started on Tuesday of last week, so we're coming up on a week. I came from the Lawrence Douglas County MPO. I was there for 6 years, and prior to that, I was doing MPO planning in Omaha for a couple of years. So I have some experience with MPOs. I'm very excited to be here, and thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Mark Krupp, thank you.
Hello, my name is Mark Krupp. I am the new GIS analyst for WAMPO. I come from Riley County. I spent the last 10 years doing, it's actually an engineering tech, but mostly doing GIS stuff. Prior to that, I spent 4.5 years with the city of Salina, also doing a lot of GIS related work, and just really enjoy doing GIS and glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We have Terry House, our administrative assistant, helping with agenda packets and meeting organizations. So Terry, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Teresa House, but I go by Terry. I grew up in Valley Center, Kansas, and I basically lived in Wichita all my life. I come here with 40 years of paralegal experience, so this is my first foray outside of the legal field, and I'm very, very excited about trying something new. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We welcome Ashley, Mark, and Terry to WAMPO and the region. I think next item is tip amendments, and followed by tip update schedule. Ashley will talk about that for now. Nick will talk about tip amendments for now. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Chad. As you may recall, at its November meeting, this committee recommended that the transportation policy body approve 1 MTP amendment and 2 TIP amendments. And on December 14th, the TPB approved all those amendments without modification. And now soon we are going to start the cycle for Amendment 6 to the 2021 to 2024 Transportation Improvement Program, with the call for changes going out to project sponsors starting on the 31st of this month and going through the 11th of February. And then the required 30-day public comment period will run from February 26th to March 27th. And then this committee will provide its recommendation on March 28th, and the TPB will make its final decision on April 12th.
Thank you, Nick. As you all know, we have our current TIP 21 through 24. Now the next TIP that is adding a couple more years, 25, 26, 23 to 26. Ashley will oversee the development of the TIP, and Nick will be, managing the TIP. So thank you, Ashley, please.
Thank you. So as Chad just said, we're going to have a brand new TIP, which will be 23 to 26. So we'll start that process of calling for projects on February 8th and go until March 8th. Then in the spring, staff will review the projects and we'll have some project selection committee meetings. And over the summer, we'll develop the document and have the public comment period. Then summer, fall, we'll do the recommendation and approval process. And we will attempt to have this completed before the new fiscal year starts on October 1st. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. And back to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you all, and definitely a big welcome from all of us to Ashley, Mark, and Terry. It's exciting that you guys have joined us. We thank you very much. We're going to move on to item 3, which is the public comments. Is there anyone in the public that had any comments today? It doesn't look like it. All right, we're going to move on to item number 4, the new business, the update for the active transportation facilities. Alan?
All right, thank you. I am Alan Kaler. I am co-chair with Jack Brown, who's also on virtually of WAMPO's Active Transportation Committee. And despite the label here, update on the active transportation facilities in the region, actually, what I'm going to talk about is how the Active Transportation Committee is pursuing an update of what those facilities are and what we're doing about it. So for many years, as you probably all know, WAMPO has had a priority to improve the bicycle and pedestrian facilities in the region. For example, the latest version of that, the reimagined Move 2040 MTP, is the thing that sets the vision and strategy for all regional transportation in the region. And one of the primary objectives of Move 2040 is stated in there, as it is for many of the communities in the region, is to improve quality of life and to attract talent to the region. The plan states that a significant factor influencing these choices is quality of place, which is heavily influenced by transportation and land use decisions. In particular, the option to live in denser, walkable areas supported by pedestrian, bicycle, and transit alternatives has a high level of influence on the quality of life and the attracting talent to the region. The plan also says that an aging population and increasing share of millennials and Generation Z increase the need for a transportation system suited for denser development and includes transit, bicycle, and pedestrian facilities. In developing the Move 2040 plan, the WAMPO also had several sessions of public engagement. That public engagement consistently showed a desire for improved plans. It states So the need and preference for an expanded and connected bicycle and pedestrian network within and between the communities was a frequently expressed theme during WAMPO public engagement. And public input and performance measure data support increasing investment in local road systems, transit, bicycle, and pedestrian facilities. As a result of the WAMPO's emphasis in the past, through its count of pedestrian and bicycle, the pedestrian bicycle count annually, the number of people counted using pedestrian bicycle facilities at the selected locations has increased by 50% since 2012. So let's see, how do I move on here? Nick? There we go. The existing regional active transportation plan was adopted in 2007 and revised in 2011. It is the Regional Pathway System Plan update. That plan included an ambitious plan to improve the bicycle and pedestrian facilities, including longer range routes between the different communities in the region and connecting the different communities. But since that time, there have been a number of, since 2011, 11 years ago, there's been a lot of developments. First of all, Wichita has adopted a master bicycle plan and a master pedestrian plan. Also, several of the communities in the region have adopted their own plans. Many of the facilities contemplated by the 2011 plan have been constructed already. And of course, there's been changes in the population and the culture. I mentioned that most of the communities in the region have adopted their own plan. In fact, about 2/3 of the communities have done that. We've got a listing here of really all the communities and the jurisdictions in the region showing what those plans are. And by the way, if any of you know of plans that are not listed here or any updates to them that are not listed, please let us know and we'll update. All of these plans are cataloged on the WAMPO website. You can access the latest version of them there under the bicycle and pedestrian matters. And so if you want to look at that and make sure we have the right plan, you can go to the WAMPO website. In addition to Wichita and the other communities adopting various plans, the WAMPO has adopted the Move 2040 plan that I just mentioned, and it includes a map of the existing routes and shows where the different kinds of facilities within the region. Also, the Kansas Department of Transportation has adopted an active transportation plan statewide. I say they have adopted it, as I believe that is the case. It has not actually been publicly released in its final form, but that will come any day now. They will have an active transportation plan that's publicly available. Part of that plan, by the way, includes a toolkit for communities who are looking to adopt their own plan, a kind of an outline of how to go about the process and develop a plan on a community basis. So taking all of these developments into account and with the existing plan, the committee's goals, the Active Transportation Committee's goals have been to, first of all, inventory what the existing active transportation infrastructure is, including on and off street, paths, and parking. And we've done a good deal of that. That is a continuing process and will be continuing throughout the whole schedule of our activity. We're also reviewing the connectivity of those existing facilities, identifying where there are gaps in the connectivity. And again, that's something that we have already done. We already have a map, and in fact, in the Move 2040 bicycle and pedestrian appendix, it identifies where some of those gaps are. But again, that's something that we will continue to refine and add to as we go through the process. We're going to review the existing communities' plans, and that is in process. I'll talk about that more in just a moment. and then update the existing plan or adopt a new plan. And the focus of this is not just to adopt a new plan with proposed routes for facilities, but also to look at other policies in the region that may affect active transportation. So our timeline is a fairly extended timeline, although I'm sure something you're familiar with. So we have begun the information gathering in 2021 and mapping of existing routes and identifying where those gaps are and what the needs are. We're going to continue that through this year and draft a report either this year or next year and recommendations. And then in 2023, hopefully complete the report and the recommendations. So it is a process that we're going through, that we're in the middle of. So we began meeting in September of 2020. We're meeting quarterly. We have had representatives from several of the communities in the region attend those meetings and had initial presentations on what the existing plans are. And the plans have updated the WAMPO website, for example, to include plans that were not that we didn't know about at the beginning of the process. So if you are not don't have a representative at those meetings, we would love to have you have someone there and to provide input and to understand what it is that we're doing. I'll provide some more information about that at the end here. We've received presentations on the plans from 7 different communities in the region and from Sedgwick County. Listed here are the communities that we have heard from. And we've got some insights, some thoughts, ideas from what those communities have presented so far. For example, several of them have fairly robust plans for completing a network through their whole city within communities. Primarily, the focus of those within the communities is to connect the parks, government centers, and other facilities or amenities, which makes sense. Excuse me. For example, this is Bel Air's plan, and as you can see, they have, as with most of them, they have distinguished between what the existing routes are, what their proposed routes. I know you can't see the detail here, but this gives you an idea of what it is that Bel Air is planning. Similarly with Derby, have a fairly complete plan through the city, connecting the government centers, parks, and the upper left in this map connecting to Wichita. Similarly with Hayesville, showing what their existing and priority plans are. In addition to connecting within the communities, most of the plans that have been adopted by the various communities have a goal of connecting to nearby communities. For example, Andover has essentially completed through the city the Redbud Trail and a connection to Wichita. There are still improvements that need to be made there, and that has been an extremely successful project. Lots of activity on that trail has brought lots of people to and through Andover, and there's lots of activity along there, as I'm sure Troy can attest. Hayesville also has a priority of having regional connectivity, and one of the statements in their plan, I think, is particularly helpful or emphasizes the need for that. They say that the successful coordination between municipalities to connect bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure in a meaningful way will have a dramatic impact on regional connectivity. And Valley Center also prioritizes a regional trail. They say that a regional trail will serve as a major recreational amenity for Valley Center, and with the potential to connect to communities in the South, thereby also becoming an important connector trail. For example, students in Park City who attend Valley Center schools might be more likely to bike to school, while Valley Center residents may want to bike to Park City to do their shopping. In addition, many of the communities have policies to significantly improve pedestrian accessibility within their communities by having the city pay for sidewalks or paths on all the arterials or fill in gaps in the existing sidewalks, even on streets that are not arterials. So, for example, Andover has a policy that have a portion of their 1% sales tax will pay for sidewalk repair and pathway maintenance. Derby has an ordinance that requires the city to cover 100% of the cost for repair and maintenance for public sidewalks. These go beyond what state law requirements, state law provides for, and contemplates that the city will spend funds on maintaining or building sidewalks. In addition, nearly all focus on connecting the neighborhoods to resources and amenities. So I mentioned earlier that all of them have a plan to connect different amenities and government centers and so forth. But in addition to connecting between locations, they have plans to connect the neighborhoods to those amenities. For example, Andover has wants to connect among these different areas. Hayesville connects throughout the city, and the orange portions on this this map show where they're improving. The priority is to build connections to the neighborhoods in the more or less outlying communities of Hayesville. Rose Hill, one of their top priorities is to connect their neighborhoods, and they have a neighborhood to the north of Rose Hill that they are very interested in connecting to. So in addition to the presentations from the different communities, we've also had presentations from WAMPO staff on the annual bicycle and pedestrian count, the way to measure bicycle level of stress, and GIS maps of bicycle and pedestrian facilities. I think that many of these have been shown to either the TAC or the TPB. I'm not sure which, so you've probably seen them. But for example, here is the GIS map of the existing facilities on a story map that shows both just in the map form and in a satellite view. And all these are available on the WAMPO website as well. So that is what we've done so far. Our future plans are to continue to hear from additional communities. We've had presentations from about a third of the communities so far that have adopted plans. The intention is that the adopted regional plan will help prioritize the future funding from WAMPO to these communities and projects. So if your community is interested in the WAMPO funding for your projects, it would be helpful to have your representative of your community attend these meetings and have some input into what that regional plan says. Our next meeting is Wednesday, March 2nd at 9:30 in the morning. All our meetings are virtual, so you don't have any excuse to not come because it's such a long way into the WAMPO offices. And we'd love to, again, have as much representation as possible there. Questions? Jack? I see that you're on. Jack is, as I mentioned, co-chair Jack Brown. Do you have anything that you'd like to add? Anything I left out?
Alan, you did an excellent job. About the only thing I would add is I'm continuing to contact communities for our next meeting, but you've done a great job of explaining how this got going and what we've been doing and where we are going forward. So those would be my comments. There is a comment that just popped up from Jim Weber.
Okay. Yeah, we did. It's not up on this screen. Yeah, that Nick or.
I'll just say it, Alan. My question is your timeline set up to get this thing completed before we start work on the next Metropolitan Transportation Plan?
It is set up probably not to before you start work on the next MTP, but certainly to be used in connection with that MTP. So it, maybe a little bit concurrent, but definitely in connection with the MTP. Thank you, Jim. That's a good point. And on Jack's point, yes, if you are one of the communities that has adopted a plan that has not yet presented, we are in the process of contacting representatives of those committees, of those communities, and we would love to have your community present what your plan is, what your thoughts are, and what a regional plan should look like. And we are actively contacting people to get that. And love to hear back from you if you haven't heard from us. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Alan. That was exceptional. And thank you and Jack both for taking us on. And it's transformative and has certainly made a difference in WAMPO. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to item 4B, which is the travel demand model. Nick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nick and myself are presenting this travel demand model. Just to give an overview before Nick goes into the details of how the travel demand model is utilized at WAMPO and helping its jurisdictions. At a higher level, travel demand model is required by Federal Highway Administration and Department of Transportation for all MPOs to develop a travel demand model. Primarily, forecasting the travel patterns and number of users on facilities is important to plan future, with respect to transportation system, how we are prioritizing transportation projects. Even when we have design projects, the traffic forecast volumes are important to have, the design for the future and how it will be. So not just vehicular traffic, it's also transit and all modes of transportation that particularly transit vehicular traffic and some parts of freight model as well. So Nick will talk about details on how some of the examples that was utilized to, of course, like any forecasting, like weather forecasting sometimes is not perfect. And even travel forecasting it forecasts for next 10, 20 years down the road. So it's not perfect, but there are best practices that were used in the nation. And then the guidelines set forth by feds, we just follow those and develop a model that's best possible with the technology and the technical staff that are there for MPOs. So that's an overview, and let Nick talk about the details. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. The WAMPO regional travel model is a conventional 4-step travel demand model, which is the first step is trip generation, i.e. establishing where trips start and end, the production ends, the attraction ends, such as where homes are and where jobs are. That second step is trip distribution, i.e. associating trip ends with one another, associating production ends with attraction ends, and there from which origins and destinations will be obtained for the final modeling. And then mode choice, fairly straightforward, the difference between car, bus, etc. And then finally, trip assignment, i.e. what routes travelers are modeled as being most likely to take between a given origin and a given destination if they're making a trip for a particular purpose by a particular mode. And then these trips are modeled on a simplified version of the regional transportation network that, for example, does not include roadways that mostly just serve traffic in and out of a particular neighborhood. So it's mostly the higher level roadways that are shown with with what are called centroid connectors, representing the lower order ones for loading traffic onto the higher level ones. And then these are then those centroid connectors and the trip productions and attractions are associated with what are called traffic analysis zones, i.e. the entire region is divided into these special zones with particular demographic and socioeconomic characteristics associated with like population or households or jobs, what have you. And then that is used as the basis for the modeling. So just to give you a bit of background on that, in case anyone is not familiar with the travel demand modeling basics.
This slide shows how the outputs of the model are utilized in our metropolitan transportation plan. Like what corridors seem to be having larger traffic volume growth trends, like Kellogg Road and I-135, and how are the trends happening, and that type of data or the outputs from the model. It shows relative travel patterns and growth in the future and existing as well. A select link analysis is one of the things that many MPOs use. Oftentimes in studies, we would like to know on a particular corridor, where are the trips coming from? Like for instance, certain segment in Kellogg, from east or from west or from north or from south, from jurisdictions, what percentage of trips are utilizing. So those become important in even traffic studies as well. So select link analysis is utilized by many MPOs in helping jurisdictions. For example, a bridge closure project. We would like to see, where are those trips coming from, so that even for the emergency vehicle to serve communities, what are the alternative patterns, alternative modes and routes to reach out to communities, things like that. So that's how, even for planning purposes, for construction or for future, design or planning corridors, these are some of the examples how model is utilized. So go ahead, Nick.
Thank you, Chad. So jumping off of those potential uses of the travel demand model, in order to serve those uses, WAMPO member jurisdictions have a right to request outputs from the travel demand model to use for their various planning purposes. And if you decide that you have a use for the travel demand model outputs, we request that when you make your request, that you state the express purpose that you have in mind for it, i.e. one of the things listed on this slide or something else entirely. Also, the exact scenarios that you want to be modeled. For example, the base year scenario, the horizon year scenario, or a custom scenario, wherein, for example, you want certain projects to be modeled and certain projects not, or different socioeconomic and population assumptions used. And also the exact geographic area or roadway segments that you are interested in, so that we can give you results that are exactly what you need, as opposed to just giving you outputs for the entire region and making you sift through everything. So now I'm going to give you a couple of examples of requests for TDM outputs and the responses provided for them. This first one was a request for daily traffic volumes on West Street in South Wichita between Interstate 235 and MacArthur Road in the model's base year, currently 2017, and its horizon year, currently 2040. And here is a screenshot of the table that was provided in response to that, showing the different segments of the roadway in question on the right, and then on the left, and then details on the right. The link column is just the link ID assigned to each segment in our model, so that we know exactly what refers to what and can refer to it later. DIR for direction indicates which links are one-way versus two-way. So a 0 indicates a two-way street, or a 1 or a -1 indicates a one-way link per the programming in Transcad, the program that is our platform for the model. Now, in the scenario names for the daily traffic volume, 2040 EC means 2040 existing plus committed. That means it shows all current roadways plus all projects that have been committed to be built in the Transportation Improvement Program. And you notice here that although the request was for West Street, the response also includes traffic volumes on the approaches to that segment of West Street on MacArthur Road and the I-235 ramps, so that one may get a better idea of where traffic is coming from and going to on this particular segment, i.e. north, south, east, west. And each of these responses comes with a validation map, so that one can get an idea of how reliable the modeled volumes shown here are. This map shows volumes in thousands of vehicles per day, with the 2017 modeled volume, and then in parentheses, the 2017 count volume. And as you see in the blue circle on this map, not every link on the network has a corresponding count volume, so not everything can be validated. And circled in red here, you see an example of a place where the 2017 modeled and count volumes were significantly different, in which case the projected 2040 numbers should be treated with a grain of salt in those cases. And circled in gray here is just an example of a centroid connector, i.e. the centroid of a traffic analysis zone, representing the lower level streets that are not individually represented on the map for mid-block loadings onto the traffic network, which is how there are different numbers for traffic on the section of West Street south of I-235 and north of MacArthur. And now this second example was a request for daily traffic volumes on Highway K96 in Wichita between Hillside Street and Greenwich Road, and on the approaches to it on the various streets in between in 2017 and 2040. And 2040, both in the plain existing plus committed scenario and in a custom scenario where K96 is expanded from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. And here again is a screenshot of that, and circled on the right here is the custom scenario. So that's just an extra column for that. And as you can see, because there are many streets that intersect with it and a lot of approaches, there are quite a few rows in this particular response. And it even includes the segments of the roads in between the ramps leading onto K96. And here again is the validation map for this particular example. The only thing here that is not just a screenshot from the response is the the names of the intersecting streets that have been added horizontally just for your reference here in this meeting. Right. And the lighter, I say that it's peach colored lines will be traffic analysis zone boundaries. They don't quite look like it because very often traffic analysis zone boundaries correspond with roadway lengths, and so you can't see both of them at the same time. Are there any questions regarding the travel demand model or its use?
So thank you, Nick. Just to summarize, it also provides the growth rates. There are times when development occurs. There are times when needs of what's the growth rate in this corridor or in this area. So those types of things. And then Nick had mentioned the scenario planning. If it is 4-lane, how would it look like? And if it is 6-lane, how would the forecast look like? Things like this. We thought there is a resource. Mark Group has some experience with programming. So there's some programming aspects to the model. Both Nick and Mark are expected to, they work in this model in the future as well. Nick is working right now. So staff is there and the resource is there. We thought let our TAC members know what this resource is and what does this do. And if you have any further clarification, we're happy to.
Just a quick question. Was wondering if it was possible to get forecasted volumes for the plan. So it'd be existing plus planned routes, not just in the TIP, but in the MTP. And then I was also wondering if it's possible to get capacity information. So sort of comparing the volume to capacity.
We can do that, Kristen. We're happy to do that. We'll follow up. Nick and I will follow up on providing that. Thank you. So members, any information you would like to see in the future or additional information you'd like to see, we're happy to be your resource. And thank you.
How are we gathering the data? Is it just traffic counts every once in a while, or do we have maybe cameras that are just watching it all the time so we can see it change in real time, or how is this information collected?
That's a great question. It's an ongoing effort. Staff work with local jurisdictions, both how the demographic patterns are changing, socioeconomic data, population and employment are changing. It's an ongoing effort that staff needs to work with local jurisdictions and update both demographic and socioeconomic data, and also keep an eye on what streets are changing from 2 ways to 1 way and code them accordingly in the travel demand model. So all that Nick is in charge, and then he does the one behind us. Thank you for that.
Okay. Nick, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this?
No.
All right. Nick, thank you very much. It's a lot of information. It's great information. Obviously helps us do what we need to do. Let's move on to item C, which is the safety plan. Elizabeth?
Sorry, I have a new mouse and it is very challenging to get that thing going. Let's see, there we go. Okay, I've got a different computer than I usually do. All right, so I just have a few things that I would like to share. I'm going to pull up a couple, if I could share my screen. I have a couple of slides.
We're working on that. Give us a sec.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure how to do that.
Right click in the participants on this screen 27.
Okay. There we go.
Right click on the name on the list.
Here we go. Are you all seeing the safety and health slides?
Yes, we are.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. So I'm just going to briefly tell you a little bit about what we have done and where we're going with this Safety and Health Committee. So I'm Elizabeth Abla, Katy School of Medicine, Wichita, and I'm in the Department of Population Health. So before I go any further, I want to give you my spin on safety and health. The two are absolutely interlinked. We can talk about them separately, but when it comes to addressing health, we have to address safety and vice versa. So we want to make sure that we're thinking about this work in a holistic way, that we are thinking about this in prevention rather than always identifying what the problems are and then try and fix those problems. We know that there are some design attributes that allow for us to prevent problems from occurring. And so I'd really like at some point, potentially in the near future, to be able to pivot to that type of an approach. However, at this point, I don't think we're there for some of the changes that need to be made. So the purpose of our group is to figure out how we improve safety and health in our region, in the 22 communities. So we have had meetings that began, I believe, February of 2021. We meet on a quarterly basis. We do plan to conclude in November of 2023. Each meeting, we have presentations that have this sort of long-term goal of identifying how we are to approach the data that we know what we have in our community and identifying mechanisms that we can be implementing to make changes. So our first presentation was from Lisa Hecker at KDOT. She talked about overall safety and health and specifically crash data. She also, we also had Amanda Aguila talk with us for the 11 years of crash data from the city of Wichita and lots of detail from those crash reports. We also had Alejandro Arias present from the city of Wichita about ozone and air quality in our area. We also have presented on Vision Zero. And at the next meeting, we are talking about safe routes to school and health outcomes. That meeting, if you are interested, is scheduled for next Wednesday, the 2nd of February from 9:30 until 10:30. So we are at a point when we are trying to, when we schedule these, we like to have the presenter talk a little bit about what the problem is, describe the extent of the problem, what is it, and then provide data about that, and then specifically regional data so we can see the extent to which the problem is occurring in our area. We would like to see what interventions have been implemented and then in our area, and are there some that maybe need to be attempted. The intent with this is that we want to make sure that we are thinking comprehensively and holistically about these problems. The issue here, and I can stop sharing my slides. I'm not sure exactly how to do that with this set. Oh, nope, I'm leaving the meeting. That is not what I want to do. Is that I would like for us to be thinking a little bit about what I know that some of our meetings, for instance, Safe Routes to School and Vision Zero, they've really been focusing on the last bullet here, that what interventions may need to be attempted, things that have not been implemented in our region. So I think what our hope is that we will be able to explore some of these strategies and identify what's feasible in our community, in our region, what is going to be something that would allow for us to make progress on these very complicated and very difficult problems in our community so that we are making a difference. I'm going to see if that stops my share. I'm happy to accept any questions and also any guidance on how to stop sharing. There we go. I think I just stopped sharing. Yes, any questions or any comments you'd like to make?
Everyone's quiet, Elizabeth.
It's stunning. Yes, so I'm happy, Chad and Ashley, I think, have some additional content to share on the health and safety process.
Thank you, Dr. Abla. Let me have Nick help Ashley in sharing the screen of the PowerPoint. It may take a second or two for Nick to bring back the slides.
All right. Again, I'm Ashley Briers. So we wanted to provide a little bit of context of why or how this fits in with MPO planning. Several of the last federal transportation legislations have required performance measures, and these are the categories of performance measures that we're required to look at. There's three major categories: safety, which includes fatalities and serious injuries; structure condition, which is looking at pavement and bridge condition; and then performance, which is reliability, freight, air quality, sustainability. And all of these are very important, but safety is one of the biggest. And so that this ties in with our performance measure work if we work on this plan. And looking at the data, our fatalities have been rising and our serious injuries overall have been going down. If you look at the trend line over the last 2 years, or 2015 and 2016, the 5-year rolling averages, it has gone up a bit again. So we want to make sure we take a look at this and try to figure out how we can remedy this trend.
Thank you, Ashley. As you have seen, that the transportation performance measures that Ashley mentioned is required by all MPOs, and they were requirements for the Federal Highway Administration. And also what Ashley has mentioned about the trends on fatality growth and serious injuries, they are not just common to our region, they are common to rest of the MPOs and regions, other parts of the states as well. And again, MPO staff is committed to improve safety in the transportation system, working with local jurisdictions. Under our Dr. Abla's leadership, and thank you, Dr. Abla, for giving an overview on what we had been doing as safety committee. Under Dr. Abla's leadership, we all have brainstormed how do we reduce fatalities and how do we improve safety. After many meetings and some of the meetings at TPB as well, looking at what are the best practices around in other parts of the region, other parts of the nation and other states, we gathered and categorized 3 major solutions to this safety problem, or improving the safety. As Dr. Abla mentioned, interventions. What she meant was by strategies and solutions that are viable and potential. So this slide just shows a summary of all the investigations in other parts and best practices and what's possible and everything. But if you think of something else besides this, we will be happy to incorporate, but this is what we got so far. So we categorized into 3 types of solutions. 1, design solutions. 2, enforcement solutions. 3, educational communication awareness solutions. So on the design solutions, infrastructure design, is there any inadequacy or lane width, or is there adequate lighting at an intersection so that safety is enhanced? On 2, the enforcement solutions, law enforcement, how certain locations needed more enforcement because of, violations can be 2 ways. 1 is known and careless, that is number 2, enforcement, and 3 is unknown and I do not know, I didn't know the rules, that type of thing, where the educational and communication solutions come in place. In the regions where the infrastructure design is perfect, design solutions need not be any more required. Then in those places, enforcement and educational solutions are possible and potential. Now, how do we know where are these, which of those are predominant in a region? Is design, where are the points and locations that these solutions are important? That's why the safety plan is required, where, diving deeper into these aspects and figuring it out a plan that is beneficial for the region. So just want to share with you what we had worked so far, what we summarized, what we thought of. Thank you, Ashley. Next slide. So Ashley will lead the safety plan, and then WAMPO staff today is requesting stakeholders to drive the safety plan. Now, for the stakeholders, you may ask, who are the potential stakeholders? So staff sat together and identified who could be the potential stakeholders to drive the safety plan, both the schedule and eventual completion. For instance, for contributing to design solutions, jurisdictions like engineers, planners, staff that's knowledgeable on safety projects that they can prioritize is number one. And number two, for enforcement solutions, sergeant, police chief, law enforcement staff, and any staff knowledgeable on safety issues, that type of staff in your jurisdictions. And number three, educational and awareness solutions, communications managers in your jurisdictions, community outreach coordinators in your jurisdictions, and those staff who have knowledge on like intelligent transportation systems, ITS implementation, variable message signs, how do we communicate with public, that type of thing, like don't text and drive, be safe, and any other types of communications. So these are the stakeholders that staff is looking at, and then we wanted to share with you, these stakeholders would develop the plan, because WAMPO staff never thought limited to the staff. We always felt this entire region, like TAC membership, we all are the WAMPO. We always felt we embraced all jurisdictions, and we always felt we are all in this together. And therefore, this is something we thought we share with you. Thank you, Ashley.
And then finally, WAMPO's role in this process. We're really here to help coordinate planning and then allocate resources through the Transportation Improvement Program and the MTP. So the first kind of step in this arrow is to develop the plan so we can identify projects. And then WAMPO will work with local jurisdictions to implement the plan, specifically by allocating resources through the TIP and the MTP. So once projects are identified, they can be included in the next long-range plan and then go through the TIP to be implemented. And all of this is really to strive to reduce fatalities and serious injuries, because that's our end goal with all this work. There we go.
Thank you guys for providing all that information. That is a lot to digest, but it's a lot of work and it's very important. And we thank you guys for focusing on that. And we hope to see people join this committee. We need your help. So just think about it. That's the last item for new business. We're going to move on. Well, the committee report, I wonder if Dr. Abla has already covered that. So Elizabeth, did you want to say anything further?
Thank you. No, that's perfect. But that's when we're meeting. And it's going to be, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about the safe routes to school and some health data.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, and Alan, did you have anything further? You had such a great presentation, I get it. Okay, well, that's those two committee reports have been updated. We'll move on to other business. Chad, did you have anything further there?
Thank you. We all want to thank our chair, Councilmember Troy Tabor. This is his last TAC meeting because of the 2-year term limitation. I can't, there are no words to thank Troy. He had been a mentor for WAMPO staff to be in the right direction. and he had provided us how this should be relevant to the TPB meetings. So we miss him a lot. We thank him for his contributions.
It's very nice, Chad. Thank you. It's been humbling and it's been an honor to be a part of this committee. Everyone here is extremely intelligent, has a tie into the city and the region that is something you can't find with electeds. It's just exceptional, and I am very happy to have been a part of it. Hope I helped in some way. And whoever takes my seat next, I hope they have big shoes or big things to do. So I look forward to seeing who that would be as well. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to talk about or bring up today? Okay, then can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'd motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.